Alright, so today we're going to make an extension cord that will put all other extension cords to shame, at least in my book. So what I have here is probably around 25 feet of SOOW cord, drop cord, 3 conductor. It's 12 gauge. This is going to be a 20 amp box. This is a 4-inch box. I think it's 2 1/8 deep. Will give us enough room to do what we're trying to do. Cover, this will accept, this is like a universal one, so it also comes with these doohickeys. So if you want to have a duplex outlet, you can do that, and then we'll save one for the GFCI. We've got a strain relief here for the cord in pieces. This is just a tamper resistant 20 amp duplex receptacle. This is a 20 amp tamper resistant GFCI. So we're going to use this in a GFCI. This will be at the beginning of our circuit to protect the downstream circuits, so you can use this thing outside. These are little screws to hold these into the box, wire nuts, and then one of these fancy, it's not a Wago, it's kind of a knockoff Wago, but honestly I like these better. Anyway, I'll get you the name of them, but and then a couple of pieces of wire. This is 12 gauge wire and some cutters. Oh, and this right here is basically the male cord in you can plug into your sockets. So technically you should use this with a 20 amp outlet, just to make sure that the wire gauges match what's in your wall so you don't burn your house down. And the drill just to, an impact rather, to make this easy. Anyway, so we'll start with, we'll get our wire prepped here. Just go ahead and do that. So what you're going to do is cut the sheathing back, the black sheathing, I don't know, probably 6 or 8 inches back. Just give you enough room to work with. Some people will take this, just give it a light pressure and kind of twist to get into the wire, or the sheathing rather. Most of the time that's enough. Just bend the cord until the rubber gives way. Sometimes I cheat a little bit and just run a little knife around it. Just don't want to dig in too far and get into the actual wires under here. Pull that off of there. Throw that away. Nobody needs that. So now you're left with your bare. Black will be hot, white common, neutral rather, and your green will be your ground. So this is actually what's going to go inside your box here to connect to the circuits. Golly, not the circuits, to the receptacles. So being this is 12 gauge stranded, I know a lot of you probably know this, but just in case if you don't, most wire strippers have a stranded side and a solid side with the gauge numbers to kind of help you pick the right one, so you don't cut the wire, you just cut the sheathing. So this is stranded wire. We're going to pick the 12, and then we're going to cut, I don't know, maybe, let's say ½ inch, 5/8 maybe. Do that for all the colors here. When you pull the sheathing off, just yeet it over somewhere. Nobody needs that. And then you can find it on the floor later in a week. Sometimes they're difficult, but anyway, so that's what you end up with. I typically just spread them out, give them a little twist. So when you go to make these connections, if these things end up being a little too long, you can always cut some off. But anyway, that's effectively what you're going to do to that end. This end, I just pre-did it for the sake of time. Same thing, except this end is going to go into this connector. It's going to feed up through here. So you really don't need much at all. I mean, that's probably maybe an inch hanging out, and then you want to strip just maybe a 1/4 inch of the sheathing off, because you're going to stick them into these little crimp holders right here. And there's really not enough room, and you really don't want the bare copper to touch once they're engaged, or else you'll short it, blow your breaker, and it's just a nuisance. So anyway, that's what this end should look like. Now we'll move on to the receptacle. So this is just a 20 amp, like I said earlier. It's a GFCI. Now the thing with GFCI is you have a line side and a load side. So line is the power coming in to the receptacle. It's very important. The power coming into the receptacle. The load is any power that's leaving the receptacle to go downstream into, say, another receptacle. That will protect this receptacle on this GFCI. So anyway, I've already attached just a little shorty piece of wire for the ground. This one I just had made up already, but it's, we've got our pigtails on the back of it here. So the saying goes black to brass and then white to silver, but BB, black to brass. And of course your copper always goes to the green screw. That's your ground. So the other thing, when you're building a box, like a metal box, especially if you've got one of these, this is stamped. So you've got these edges that you have to contend with. For reference, this is what an outlet typically looks like out of the box. This is just an indoor outlet, nothing special, but it has these little Mickey Mouse ears on it. Well, this doesn't go in that box. It just doesn't fit like that. So what you have to do is take your cutters, dikes, lineman pliers, whatever you have, and there's reliefs here, so you can just grab it right up next to that relief. You can bend it back and forth, and those things will just pop off, and then it'll look like this with this kind of rounded edge. Now when you go to put this in there, it'll actually fit. So anyway, that's how they're designed. So I'm gonna start with the connection of these two outlets. I'm gonna go ahead and make the connections to each other. It's easier to do before you put it in here, because once you get it in here, these things are close together. It's hard to get to the wire. When you make your loop to go around this the screw here, make sure you make the loop in the same direction that you're going to turn it to tighten it. So you're going to turn it clockwise to tighten it. You want your loop to go clockwise. So when you tighten it, it's actually going to try to pull the wire around the screw. If you do it the other way and you go to tighten it, it's going to try to pull that wire off of there, and you'll end up with a bad connection. No bueno. A lot of the standard ones just have these like back stabs. Don't use those. It's easy and convenient, but the connection won't last. They get loose. It'll arc inside of there. It'll start effectively melting the circuitry in here. Somebody could get hurt, or it'll just kill the outlet, or you'll have a lot of problems with it. So I always use the screws on the outside in those cases. Anyway, all right. So we're going to take the GFCI. We'll start with it, and we're going to connect it to this guy. So being that I've already pre-done the pigtails, it really doesn't matter which one of these screws you use. As long as that piece, that little bridge is intact, either of those will power the outlet. So as being that I want this protected by the GFCI, I want to have this on the load side. So this will be the load on this GFCI. So these actually have a compression fitting down in there that when you put it in, you tighten the screw, it clamps down on it, so it makes a really good connection doing it that way. So when I have it in the box, it's going to be like this. I'll have this on the left, this on the right. So I need to make sure that my wire will reach. So if we're looking at it from the back, I'm going to have this black wire go into the brass, black to brass always. So just stick it in there. Take this because I'm lazy. Just don't over tighten it. will not do you well. And then I'll make sure I get this right direction here. So then this white wire, do the same thing. These are a little bit short. I probably would have made it longer, but I was in a hurry. So I'm gonna do the same thing here. Plug it in there. So now this outlet is powered through here with the hot feed coming into the line side here. So we'll also take the grounds. I'm going to cut a little pigtail for this, just so there's less chaos inside of the box. You'll see what I'm talking about. This is 12 gauge, but it's solid wire, so I'm going to use the 12 on the solid, which is one step up from the other. Same thing, about a 1/2 inch, 5/8 or so. Do both ends. And then I'm going to take, since I'm going to use a wire nut to go from the solid to the stranded, it'll make a better connection than these fittings. These connectors, you really need solid wire to go in here, or else these things don't really work that great. But they're super fast. So just going to shove it in one end here, get it all the way in there, and then you just flip the lever and that locks it in place. And then we'll just kind of fold this out of the way best we can. Actually, let's not do that yet because I need to get the other wires on there. Duh. So these will be my pigtails from the line side to this. I do not want to put these stranded wires in the back of that. It will not work very well. So I'm going to stick black to brass again. Untwist this a little bit so that it's got room in there to grab. But you don't want to have copper sticking out of here for a chance to short out. So anyway, that's the hot line. Hot line. And then this is the, see, I got a little bit sticking out there. Cut a little bit of that off. Get that in there. Give it the old yonky test. Doesn't pop out, good to go. So now I can kind of fold this out of the way, and I'm going to end up with basically what looks like this. So now I have ground, hot, neutral, going to connect to ground, hot, and neutral. So now what I want to do is go ahead and mount this. I'm going to use this little adapter piece, and you might have to work with a little bit. Some of these are kind of tight, but so you're going to end up with that and that side. You take these, I believe these come with the cover plate, these little screws and nuts, and they got ridges on them, so they'll self-lock when you get them on there. I'll just get the outlet in there, take one of these little nuts, kind of just stick it on my finger and hold it back there, and then you can kind of find, do the old chicken peck and just turn it until it catches on something. Same thing with the other one. Just kind of stick your finger in there. So that'll go through the box, the cover plate, and then it'll go through the outlet hole, and then you'll catch it on the back side there. Super basic, but for anybody who hasn't done it. And then I just use my finger to kind of hold it. Twist it till it cinches down. No need to be super tight. Just tight enough to where it won't come out. Slip this plate under there. This one may be a tad bit trickier just because you got 3 sets of holes to line up, but once you get it through the opening, that'll line everything up for you. Sometimes it doesn't want to grab here, so I'm just going to hold it with this, cheat a little bit, just to keep the nut from spinning on the back. There we go. Boom. Box made. So, next step, we're going to feed our wire into this box. So these boxes typically have all these knockouts in them. I have a 1/2-inch strain relief. This little guy here, this will keep the wire from like rubbing on the box or bending over too much and breaking or cutting itself on this. These things are kind of jagged. They're just punched. They make the 2 1/8 in a welded box construction. Let me show you one of those. So this is basically the same box, but this is welded. So you can see it's welded all the way around in several spots. It's just like make it like a cardboard box. It's just open. They fold it up and then they weld the corners together. But this makes for like jagged edges, pointed edges. These make good wall mounted boxes. Anyway, I like this one. It's round, drag it on the ground. It's not going to catch on anything, won't cut anybody. There you go. So back to what we're doing here. So you want to put the strain relief on the cord before you stick it in the box. If you put it in the box first, you'll never get this on. You'll have to take it all apart. So I just feed it in here. I probably should have done this before I cut the wire, but that's okay. That way you don't fray the edges. And then this is kind of it's like a collet. So when you screw this thing down, these will crush down onto the cord and hold it from sliding. So we just feed those in there like so. Kind of have to coax it up on there a little bit. I'll typically leave, I don't know, 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch of the sheathing hanging out just as kind of an extra protection. And then you take the top, the female end, and just twist it on there. Really, you just need hand tight. You don't need to get out your tools and go wrenching on that. So take this, shove it in here. And that's going to bring your wires into the box. And then you take this nut, slip it over, and then you thread it onto the threads on your strain relief. Again, hand tight's plenty. Don't need to overkill it. So now you got wire coming into your box. Now what we're going to do here is get this untwisted. Color to color, we're just going to make the connections. So I'm just going to use wire nuts for this. Why? Because you have stranded and solid wire together. Just kind of get them to stay together. Take your nut on there. Give it the old twist. Again, hand tight's fine. Tug it, make sure none of them are loose. Same thing with this end, with the black. Just get your wires kind of lined up. Put them on there gently, just to make sure you're getting all the strands inside the little, this little metal threaded insert on the inside that keeps the wires together. Just want to make sure you get all the strands inside of that. And then take this last one, put that on here, and now you've made. We need to ground to the box. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a drill bit, not really, can't remember what size it is, 3/16 maybe, and I'm just going to drill a hole inside of the box. Take this fastener I just had laying around, and I'm just going to run that through, and I'm going to put my ground wire to the box on that, and then run it back to this this ground connection right here. So I'll show you that. A lot of these boxes come with dimples in them for the ground screw that's threaded, so you can just run like a typical, I think it's like a 1032 through there. But this box doesn't have a dimple, and it doesn't even have holes in it to drill it. It's yesterday. First things first. I made the right one. Just gonna drill a little hole right here. Actually, let's do it right. Let's do it down here. Make sure our screw fits. It should. Yep. Do a little deburring here. Thread it that way. Try to get a quarter turn on it. There we go. Okay. Now, probably gonna need a bigger wire nut, so let's get one of those. We'll add this one to the bunch. Remembering to maintain them together like that. Okay, now put that in there. Now it is grounded. Put screws back in it. I'm about to go. Now it is grounded. There you go. That's the box in. Now we'll get into this. So you just buy these off of Amazon. I'll put the links in the description. Take the short end with your wires real short. Just kind of the same, similar process. I just thread that on there. We'll come back to it. These are the clamps that will clamp onto the wire. We'll come back to that too. But this is where all the quote unquote magic happens. This is where you connect your box to the actual plug that'll go inside of your existing outlet. And again, these are colored. So you have silver, brass, gold, whatever. I like to say brass because the BB connection, and then the green for ground. So we want to do our best to, not get these all knotted up and twisted up. And we want to make sure we bury as much of the copper in these connections as possible, so there's no potential for a cross. It's kind of tricky because there's not a lot of room for your hands and fingers, and to be able to see. See, look at that. See how it just pops out. I have to redo the black one. All right, because sometimes these things are a pain in the arse. But that's why we do things. We can do difficult things. It's all right. Now, just so it doesn't come apart, and get a screwdriver, hand tool, and tighten these up. Grab the wrong sides. Why? Because it's late. All right, let's get these as snug as we can. And that is why getting this bad boy on here first is super important, because it's really annoying if you don't. So you got 3 screws right here. There's 3 holes in the bottom of that. You just feed it through. I think this even has like a little pokey yoke on the inside that will help you align the screws. Now remember, if you're using power tools, be real easy, because these are just threaded into plastic. So if you get a little carried away, it will strip and this thing will fall apart. Ask me how I know. Okay, now that you're left with this, you take your clamp. Comes with, so it has a female end. It goes on one side, male end. One of these screws looks like it's, so now you just do the dance of trying to get those screws lined up. I kind of just do the old run the screwdriver until it catches. Most of the time that's effective. And then once again, I tighten this down until I feel good about it, whatever that means. Probably tighten it most of the way, and then just hand tighten it once again. You don't want to over tighten it, but you also want to hold the wire, because if you're yanking on this thing or whatever, you don't want this to pull all the wires out of the back of your plug. That wouldn't be any good. So now we've actually done the hard part of putting this thing together. Now you're left with a super duper heavy duty cord. So anyway, now the next step is, let's go plug it in and plug something up and see if it works. Now it's plugged up. Let's see, we got power. I don't know. Test. Yep, green light's on. It's hard to see, but let's get something juicy. Nice old 10-year-old quarter cable cord and saw, 15 amp. Who the hell uses these anymore? Everybody's got all these batteries. And that's all she wrote. So that's a 15 amp saw, no issue. Power works. Oh, let me get my tester. I'll show you one more thing. For the record, I'm not an electrician, so I don't pretend to be a licensed expert. Do this at your own risk. I trust my abilities. I've done several of these. So this is a tester. It's just a little cheapo Southwire circuit tester. It also is able to test a GFCI. So when I plug it up, you know, I'm looking for these two orange lights to be on. I don't want to see a red light. So that means the circuit is correct. Check all of them. You have to check all of them. Not necessarily, as long as you check each receptacle. And then, so I'm going to check the GFCI on this one to see if this one's protected, to make sure it's wired correctly, and it should pop. Boom, here we go. Oh, these tamper resistance are hard. Okay. So then we'll reset this. I'll stick it back in here and I'll test the GFCI itself. Should work. There you go. Boom, done. And that, folks, is how to make a beautiful, heavy duty, long lasting. I mean, this thing, if you take care of it, will last longer than you. They'll find it in the estate sale when you're dead. Deuces.